Our top story now, External Affairs Minister Dr. S Jaishankar today told the United Nations political convenience could not be the basis for a nation's response to terrorism or extremism, and he stressed on the need to respect territorial integrity and called for non-interference in internal affairs. In a jibe at Canada as it comes amid a massive diplomatic row with the North American nation over its claims that agents of Delhi were involved in the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June. Nijjar, wanted by India on terrorism charges, was a Canadian citizen.
Nor must we countenance that political convenience determines responses to terrorism, extremism, and violence. Similarly, respect for territorial integrity and non-interference in internal affairs cannot be exercises in cherry-picking.
We're now joined by Chris Blackburn, international relations expert, and Dr. Tara Karta, former director, National Security Council Secretariat. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Tara Karta, first to you. A strong statement by the External Affairs Minister, even as India is still waiting for Canada to show us that evidence that they keep claiming or claiming to have.
Yeah, that was what he called, in terms of allegations. That's the word that the Canadian Prime Minister used. A reliable allegation. That itself is a bit of a contrary in itself. But having said that, while I would appreciate the fact that Canada has one of the most progressive freedom of speech, I mean, they have, that is something to be appreciated, but clearly there are limits to that. I mean, the way these people have gone. And what is interesting, Gargi, is that the whole Khalistani, the whole, what shall I say, the nexus which comes out is not just about terrorism. It's about a bunch of organized crime activities, like the list which the NIA had brought out recently shows the kind of activities that these people have been involved in. In fact, last year, I think Hakim Zada, there was a Sikh who had been indicted on drug terrorism charges in drug terrorism activities in all the Five Eyes countries, in Australia, in UK, in Canada, in the US. And this we did on the request of a US OFAC, notification of OFAC is the Office of Foreign Assets Control. So, what I'm trying to say is, it is in their interest to stop Khalistani activities because there are all sorts of things involved.
Right.
There is.
Right. Chris Blackburn, your response, and as we've been discussing over these last few 10 days, is that Khalistani extremism and activity in Canada has been a huge problem for India for decades now. And now it's really come to a head with our relations with Canada, hitting the lowest point ever. And the External Affairs Minister again talking about how, you can't have a different response for terrorism.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with the last speaker, Dr. Tara and Dr. Jaishankar. Global security works around trust and trust between allies. And I think what we've seen with Canada and India is a complete breakdown in that trust. We have all other nations in Five Eyes, the US, UK, all saying openly that they are going to take pro-Khalistan extremism seriously. However, what we've seen from Canada since the sort of unprecedented allegation and grave allegation against India is the narrative in Canada. One of Justin Trudeau's former foreign policy advisors, Omar Aziz, basically said, we knew the Khalistanis were terror financing, but we didn't do anything about it for political gains. Now, I would like to see that nations would condemn that statement and follow up on that line of inquiry, because if the Canadians are being deliberately ignoring terrorism being financed on their soil, that breaks down the whole sort of global order, and it brings down the rules-based order that Trudeau supposedly cares about. So I think what we're going to see in the coming weeks is a battling narratives on this subject. And I think at the minute, India is in the ascendancy. I think a lot of people can't defend what the Canadians have done.
In fact, yes, we've not seen anyone, come out very strongly in support of Canada. And, the United States has said simply that India must, help in these investigations. We're joined by Brahma Chelani, strategic affairs expert as well. And Mr. Chelani, so how do you view, for Justin Trudeau, this is a political compulsion that he had. This is vote bank politics also playing out over there. And how can he, dial this down given this situation that Canada is now finding itself in? And many have spoken in favor of India, while nobody has come out very strongly on what Canada is saying, and everybody's condemning any sort of terrorism.
You're right, Gargi. The thing is that Justin Trudeau is facing a lot of heat at home. First, for making an allegation against India without presenting any evidence. And then on Friday, his government honored a Canadian Nazi veteran. It clearly shows that Canada has become home to war criminals, terrorists, and extremists. In fact, if you look at the Khalistan movement, Canada is the international epicenter of the Khalistan movement, with British Columbia serving as the international headquarters of the Khalistanis. This role of Canada is vexing many countries. Look at Bangladesh. The assassin of the founding father of Bangladesh is hiding where? In Canada. For years, the Bangladeshi government has been trying to get the Trudeau government to extradite this assassin. Convicted assassin is being sheltered by Canada. And as far as the India problem is concerned regarding the terrorists that are largely located in British Columbia, this problem, to be fair, predates Justin Trudeau's coming to office. It goes back to the time when his father, the then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, was in office. Pierre Trudeau shielded dreaded Sikh terrorists, including Babar Khalsa chief Parmar, who went on, according to two official Canadian inquiries, who went on to become the mastermind of the Air India flight bombing in 1985.
The Kanishka
so there's
bombing.
A long history
yes.
to Canada shielding dangerous terrorists.
Right, absolutely. As you said, it goes back to when Indira Gandhi made that request to Justin Trudeau's father, asking for action against the Khalistani, activists there. And as you said, Kanishka bombing took place. Tara Karta, do you see? I want to ask that question to you as well. Given the way Justin Trudeau has been going on and on about these, not evidence, but these allegations that they have, and how does he now dial it back, and what next really in this India-Canada ties?
He has to clearly, this is going to be very difficult for him because of the vote that he's looking at. The vote bank, what we call vote bank politics, is very much alive and thriving in Canada. So he needs to arrest under their own laws. Their anti-terrorism laws are very specific, and it will allow arrest in terms of the things which they have said recently, where they've called for, hitting our embassy personnel. They've, likened. They have, in fact, Gargi, there have been several instances before Nijjar's murder where anchors, TV anchors who spoke on Amritpal Singh were threatened. They received threatening mails saying, we'll make an example out of you. This guy also set up another when we had, I think, the moon, the mission which we had to the moon. He brought out a statement saying, we will show you how Indira Gandhi is murdered. These statements have been there even prior to Nijjar's killing. So there is adequate evidence for the Canadian security services to arrest these people on charges of hate crime, on charges of terrorism now, so...
Right, but the question is whether they'll actually, take that action. Chris Blackburn, this is also, as, Brahma Chelani was saying, brought a focus on Canada and the fact that, they have a assassin from Bangladesh there, and the recent, massive embarrassment in honoring a Nazi, and, of course, India's grouse, which everybody can see that they have been harboring these Khalistani, sympathizers and extremists.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going forward. I think for India to be a partner with the sort of the Five Eyes nations as well, as we're seeing as they're beginning to counter China, the Five Eyes nations and the rest of the global community, right? Any partnerships needs to be revolved around trust, and when we have the Canadians in India isn't providing enough evidence, providing the right intelligence. But we know from the sort of the professionals at the NIA, at India's National Investigative Agency, that they've sent pretty compelling evidence to Canada to act on these guys. So I think when we hear from the Canadians themselves leaking to the press saying, "Oh well, we weren't taking it seriously because of vote bank politics," that's a serious and genuine concern for everyone. And as Brahmachalani said, Canada is the epicenter of this. It's not even in the Punjab. Canada is the epicenter, and it needs a global solution to conquer this.
All right, well, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much all for joining us on the program and on what the Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, just said at the United General Assembly, where he spoke about this sort of attitude towards terrorism. It can't be determined by politics. Now, Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau may have expected more support for his allegations against India, but if the statements of foreign ministers of several countries on the sidelines of the UNGA is any indication, most are giving standard statements or standing with India.
Deeply embarrassing to the
Over a week after Canadian PM Justin Trudeau's allegation against India, not much support for him at the UNGA. Foreign ministers of some countries have even criticized Canada's claim that India had a role in the killing of Khalistan leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. In fact, Sri Lanka said Canada has become a haven for terrorists.
Some of the terrorists have found safe haven in Canada. Canadian Prime Minister has this way of just coming out with some outrageous allegations without any supporting proof.
Sri Lanka and Canada have had a long-standing dispute over Tamil refugees who have settled in Canada. In 2022, Canada passed a resolution to commemorate 18th of May as Tamil Genocide Remembrance Day. Celebrating the day in 2023, PM Trudeau questioned Sri Lanka's human rights record and banned Mahinda and Gotabaya Rajapaksa and several other Sri Lankan leaders from Canada. While Sri Lanka has criticized Canada's stand on India, Portugal and Mexico have advocated a speedy resolution to the standoff. On the other hand, Bangladesh has defended India.
We are very proud of India because they don't do immature things.
In Canada, the opposition has already demanded evidence on Trudeau's allegations. They have alleged that Trudeau supporters have been appointed to the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians.
Why is Prime Minister Trudeau going to such great lengths to exclude the opposition in the Senate? Why is the government so afraid of having an opposition party at the table?
Experts say that the Nijjar murder controversy has given Trudeau a breather from domestic issues and the resultant sinking ratings. But the spat with India may not be helping his ratings either. In New Delhi, with Umashankar Singh, Kadambari Sharma for NDTV.
Well, changing tracks on the show now. It was a Super Tuesday for India at the Asian Games. 1 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze mean that India's tally has increased to 14. Indian equestrian team made history as the side clinched gold in the team dressage event, the country's first in the sport since 1982. Earlier, Neha Thakur brought home the silver in the girls' dinghy ILCA 4 category, and Ibad Ali clinched bronze for India in the Asian Games men's windsurfer RS event. On to the big political story now. In a show of mixed signals, the BJP second list of 39 candidates for poll-bound Madhya Pradesh has the party fielding 7 MPs, 3 senior ministers, 1 influential party general secretary, and the BJP's own chief whip in parliament. Congress has called it a sign of nervousness, but BJP claims it's a move of confidence.
After this mega roadshow and the Prime Minister's address at a huge rally of BJP workers in Bhopal, the BJP announced its second list of candidates for 39 seats in Madhya Pradesh, deploying its senior-most ministers and MPs from the state to take on the Congress. The top names: Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar, fielded from Dhimani; Minister of State for Rural Development Fagan Kulaste from Nivas. MOS for Food Processing Prahlad Singh Patel from Narsinghpur.
Bharat Mata Ki!
Tomar is seen as the party's strongman from Morena with political influence in the same Gwalior-Chambal region as minister and recent entrant to BJP Jyotiraditya Scindia. Kulaste is a 6th-term MP from the ST community. According to party leaders, this move is to send across a message of collective leadership to party workers and voters. It will also keep the question of who will be the chief minister open and ensure that the big netas do the heavy lifting for the party as it fights its toughest battle so far in Madhya Pradesh.
ये मुझे अभूतपूर्व है और इसने भारतीय जनता पार्टी की महाविजय को सुनिश्चित कर दिया है। हमारे सारे दिग्गज चुनाव लड़ेंगे। परेशान तो कांग्रेस है, परेशान है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा उनको हो क्या रहा है, इसलिए बौखलाहट में ऐसी बातें कर रहे हैं। भाजपा निरंतर विजय के पथ पर आगे बढ़ती जा रही है।
The lists announced so far are for seats seen as most challenging by the party. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan's name hasn't featured in any list so far. From the start of the campaign, the party has stressed on its plan for a collective leadership, projecting 12 state leaders in all of the party's campaign material. The list also marks the return of leaders such as Tomar and Kailash Vijayvargiya back into state politics. Both have contested assembly polls, but more than 10 years ago. Kailash Vijayvargiya, who was the party's in charge for the West Bengal campaign, will contest from Indore this time.
हम तो पार्टी के सिपाही हैं, पार्टी जो आदेश देगी वो करेंगे। देखिए तो 2/3 बहुमत की तरफ भारतीय जनता पार्टी बढ़ चुकी है, वो उससे आगे कितने सीटें बढ़ती है ये समय बताएगा।
कोई व्यक्ति केंद्रीय मंत्री हो, सांसद हो या अन्य पद पर, पहले वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का कार्यकर्ता है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की केंद्रीय चुनाव समिति ने अगर निर्णय किया कि अमुक कार्यकर्ता चुनाव लड़ेंगे, तो जब निर्णय हुआ है तो सबने लड़ना चाहिए और सब लड़ रहे हैं।
While the Congress has said that heavyweights in this list are a sign of nervousness, BJP leaders have said that it shows the BJP's strength in the state. Also a message to workers that the BJP is serious about winning the state. Home Minister Amit Shah has already visited Madhya Pradesh over 7 times in the last 3 months. With the Congress bolstered with the recent Karnataka win, the BJP wants to make sure that it doesn't lose Madhya Pradesh.
Right now, we are probably winning Telangana.
Right.
We are certainly winning Madhya Pradesh. We are certainly winning Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
Rajasthan, we are very close and we think we'll be able to win.
Of the 5 states that go to polls in 2 months, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Telangana and Mizoram, MP is the only one that has an incumbent BJP government. But the list makes it clear that the party is keeping its options for its next chief minister open. Bureau Report, NDTV.